I think the fundamental problem the organizations are facing is they don't know how to take those demo to production. And that is where I saw the gap.
Hi, data and AI friends. We are at a generational shift. Some might even say a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. To capitalize on this opportunity, you need more than just great technology. You need a mindset shift. That's why I'm proud to say that ThoughtSpot sponsors this podcast. Go from raw data to trusted insights and action with ThoughtSpot Agentic Analytics, a platform powered by a suite of specialized AI agents. It's why companies like Cisco, Lyft, T-Mobile, Sephora, and Schneider Electric count on ThoughtSpot. See what the future of analytics looks like at thoughtspot.com. Welcome to the Data and AI Chief. I'm your host, Cindy Housen. What if the biggest barrier to AI in your organization isn't the technology, but rather the organization itself? Too many companies are sitting on a graveyard of AI pilots and promising demos that never made it to production. Here to help us figure out why this is happening and what to do about it is Shub Agarwal, founder of the AI Trust Lab at USC, and author of Successful AI Product Creation, a 9-step framework. Shub has spent 2 decades in product management and AI leadership at companies such as Amazon, Silicon Valley startups, and Fortune 50 companies. He now bridges that experience with his research and teaching at USC. In this episode, you'll learn what's actually preventing AI from scaling inside most organizations and how to think like an AI organizational leader rather than just a builder, and what it really takes to make enterprise AI trustworthy. Shub, welcome to the Data and AI Chief.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for inviting. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, I am too. We had the pleasure of meeting in person coming up on a year ago in Santa Clara at Gen AI Week. Where in the world are you joining us from today?
I am in Los Angeles, where I live. I teach at USC, so I'm very close to that. There's an area called as Rachapala Borders. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So let's start out by talking a little bit about your book, Successful AI Product Creation. What problem were you trying to solve in writing this book now?
So I came in this industry in the AI field from long time ago. And what I've seen is the teams that are struggling with building products in a systematic way, AI products in a systematic way, because AI changed the definition of working. And so teams didn't have a mental model and a framework to build AI products in a systematic way that are successful. And that is why what you see today, the 80% demo and 20% production deployments. That's what the study is. 90% of the AI projects are not showing ROI. So I wrote this book to bring some system and rigor to building AI products. And my hope is we can flip that 80% demo, 20% production to 20% demo, 80% production.
Yeah, and do you think maybe that this is just a learning curve that organizations have to go through because there's so much new? So maybe they have to experiment first before they can step back and say, aha, now I see how we can use this.
I think experimentation is very, very critical and very, very important. We have to experiment, we have to try, we have to learn. That is there and that will always remain. I think the fundamental problem the organizations are facing today and the teams are facing today is not that they're they have lack of experimentation and the demo aspect. The challenge is they don't know how to take those demo to production. And that is where I saw the gap. And that is what we want to fill the gap with, providing a system and a method that team can apply on a rigorous basis, on a regular basis.
Yeah, great. Now, you offer a definition that in your book that I really liked. The product manager's job is to clearly define the business problem and assess whether AI provides a unique advantage over existing solutions, whether human or rule based AI systems, while delivering tangible business value. How well do you think that most product managers are able to focus on that business value rather than this is a fascinating new technology?
I think thinking of for the product managers, if they have to think of the business value and the outcome, I think it is very critical for them to understand what the end goals are and how do they attach those end goals and then think and work backwards to build a solution from it. Lot of product managers today, what they do is they think of AI as a tool and then try to solve and implement that tool. So they build AI for the sake of AI instead of trying to solve a real business problem.
I agree. So, you offer a 9 step framework. I'm going to display this via video. What are the broad 9 steps?
Yeah. So if the 9 step framework, we are trying to build a systematic approach of building AI products from conceptualization to implementation. And it has 3 phases: discovery, execution, and excellence. Think of a temple with the base, the pillars, and the scaffolding, and the so that you can build those AI products in a systematic way. So let's first talk about the discovery and think of it as a foundation of the temple, which is the product discovery. What problem are we trying to actually solve? Most AI projects start with we have a cool model instead of we have a painful problem. The step 2 is the AI fluency. Get everyone speaking the same language. Your CFO doesn't need to code, but needs to understand why Tuesday's answer differ from Monday's answer in the AI world and how they are different. And the third is the experimentation mindset, the continuous discovery, not we tried once, iteration is the product. And especially in the world of AI, this goes in the steroids. The second is the execution, the pillars that I talk about from the temple standpoint. And this is where the handoff chasm dies. So the first is MDS, LC, and SDLC integration. Imagine the jazz meets orchestra, the model deployment synchronized with software development, production to research gap, especially in a lot of organization where research is the piece and the part and parcel of the day-to-day operation. How do you productionalize these research application and deployments? And the very critical part is the evolves. That is very, very critical, thinking of the acceptance criteria in this new word, because you don't evaluate agents like softwares. And the last piece is the excellence and the sustainable excellence you can think about, which is thinking of the peak performance, which I also describe as the S curve trajectory. So, which is the patience premium. You want to make sure you have a long term plan of building the AI products, and you are investing in the long term game, ML ops and the drift management, and finally the responsible AI and the trust layer. That is very, very important in the last 20 years of building the AI products. So it overall covers the overall life cycle of building AI products in a systematic.
Yeah, thank you for taking us through that. You do emphasize the need for experimentation, but not staying just in experimentation phase. Do we have a fundamental problem in large enterprises. So I do think if you're running an AI startup, experimentation is how you determine product market fit. If you think about some of the large retailers or banks that you've worked within, the funding models almost discourage experimentation. It's what's your estimated ROI, and then I'll decide if I'm going to fund you. Do we have a problem with that mindset with such a generational shift, new technology? What do you think?
I think experimentation is critical and important, but experimentation also needs to have a purpose and a path to production. The challenge that organizational leaders sometimes face is their teams that are experimenting without a purpose and without attaching their experimentation and implementation to the end business goal. What I actually advise is suggest teams are, instead of doing side projects, instead of building AI that never sees a day of light, or doing things that are investing org resources and distracting the org, focus on core business problem and then experiment the way through a production. At that time, experimentation is highly, highly encouraged. So experimentation needs to be purposeful too. And that is the way you can actually gain support from the sponsors and the organization, even in the traditional world, to drive the outcomes in the business goals.
So, do you think experimenting to say, here's the budget, here's the time box, and this is pure learning? We're not going to productionize this, or we might if we discover something mind blowingly different or better. Are we doing enough of that?
I think first we should assign budgets and resources so the team can flex and learn and bring this new technology for long horizon. However, I will put a layer on it. What I have seen that works practically in a lot of these organizations are, given we are all facing these budget constraints and challenges, is you say we have this experimentation budget and time box, but this experimentation has a direction, and that direction
Yes.
is attached to certain OKRs organization have. Let's say I have some growth goals, a deepening goals, a cross sell goals. Directly attach and assign projects that are tied to those, and then empower team to solve those problems in a unique way, instead of them trying to solve a problem that is not important to organization. That is the only caveat I will add here. And to that point, in a lot of organizations, we are not doing it enough, because the biggest gap I have also seen is a lot of organizations don't understand how to tie AI use cases to the business goals directly. So working on that aspect together can really, really lead the way for our organizations to do the experimentation, attach them to the OKRs.
Yeah, so it's experimentation within the framework of a desired outcome or value to improve. I like that. When you talked about the scaffolding, of course, data is foundational. Is fix your data first still good advice, or is this a trap? What do you think?
See, I have a fundamentally different opinion on fix your data, and more controversial take. I do think data is the fuel for AI. I agree with that hypothesis. But I think today organizations are crippled by this fix your data and then we'll build AI, and they never build AI. They never build use cases that are adding value. I have actually seen organizations over investing on data, if there is a word for that, over investing on making sure their schemas are working and they're perfectly aligned, over working on pushing their data from the legacy system to, let's say, cloud ecosystem, which is absolutely critical and important. But I will actually take a reverse approach. I will think of what is the data that is necessary to solve this specific use case in a problem. Let's get that piece and think of vertical use cases that apply, use this data, apply it, and then build something and that adds value, and then incrementally add use cases and data instead of fix all of your data and then solve the AI problem or the business problem. And that day will never come. So that
Yeah.
is why I have a little controversial or different opinion about it.
I don't know that it's controversial because I'm right there with you. Take a use case based approach because data is never perfect. And I think when we add unstructured data in there, the idea that you're going to go back and clean that all up for a year or 3 years, I actually think leaders who take that approach, they are setting themselves up for huge risk because they have delivered no visible value. It's like digging the basement on a house for 3 years with nothing to show for it. I don't know. What do you think?
Now, I totally agree with you. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you. I think and especially the word of AI has also dramatically shifted. So whole of the fundamental aspects from when we were in the world of machine learning to today's word of LLM and large language models and agentic AI, while data is important, the new models, the advanced models, the modern AI versus the traditional AI gives us more flexibility with working with what kind of data we have.
Mm.
And instead of the previous traditional AI, which required a lot of times a very, very structured set of data. So that actually provides us and unshackles us to build more use cases and do more experimentation at a faster pace.
Yeah, and this is where you talked about using smaller data sets, synthetic data sets to test the actual outcomes. Did it deliver high enough outcomes? So, new options here. You make the point that for leaders, this is also a mindset shift, not just process or tooling to scale AI across an enterprise. What's the big mindset shift?
So I think there are, in general, I will say four mindset shifts that are necessary for leaders and organizations. And I'll talk through them very quickly. So the first one that is very, very critical in the AI world is thinking of the acceptance criteria. When you're building a AI products and building a software, we always used to think of acceptance criteria. And in the software world, in the fixed world, we had a checklist of what good looks like and what the final output looks like. That suddenly moved in the AI world. We are talking about probabilistic system.
Mhm.
How do you, and that word today is now we are calling that acceptance criteria same as evals, bringing the evals in, making sure we have an evaluation system for these AI models. That mindset shift of how to build AI that is probabilistic, how to negotiate with stakeholders on what good looks like within the organizations and through the customer lens is something that is a major mindset shift for the organizations. So that's the piece one. The second piece, I think that is very critical in this mindset shift also is thinking of AI as a long term investment. I call it as a patience premium. What I mean by that is think of self driving cars. And I remember I was, um, I, s- I was in Carnegie Mellon that time and there were self driving cars, Google self driving cars in Pittsburgh, and they were getting experimented in the parking lots. And of course, they are not above human level performance at that time. Imagine if you cut the project at that time because they're underperforming a human level performance, you will never achieve a long term success. Lot of AI projects are like those, where you start with an implementation and over a period of time, they start exceeding the human level performance or organization performance. And it requires intentional thinking, planning, training, and ramp up plans. So that's the second shift. Thinking of these projects with a mindset of an organization with a mindset of long term planning and strategy. That's the second shift. I think the third important shift in this area is thinking of teams differently. Think of software engineering and then think of data scientists. Software engineers actually thrive on predictability a lot. They want to, oh, what is the performance? What are the timelines? The data scientists, a lot of times, are thriving on unpredictability, experimentation, the model testing, those processes, and bringing those two pieces together in one room and bridging it together is a major mindset shift for organizations too. So that's third mental model shift for these organizations. And the
Okay.
most important one is the trust piece. Instead of thinking trust as a bolt on feature at the end of your AI implementation, think of it as a governance theater. Thinking of trust as a first order feature. That's a fourth mindset shift. These are four mindset shifts that are super critical for organizations.
Okay. So acceptance criteria and evals, number one. Number two, the patience and long term planning. Number three, combining the teams that thrive on predictability and process and those that thrive on unpredictability, creativity, and then trust. I want to come back to number two on the patience, because as one leader said to me, Cindy, we are in an all out AI arms race. And it's really the first is to get it fully right in their domain is winner take all. So, how can we be patient when so much is at stake?
I think the way to be patient is that instead of thinking in short term bets and short term successes and implementation, which is like flash in the pan, think of what are the organization goals and how we will achieve those. And the people who will actually have a patience, I will argue, who are investing in those long term goals are going to be the winners. I do think there is a sense of urgency for everyone, and that should be there. We should invest in that. But instead of thinking, oh, will I get those results next quarter? We should think about, does it meet our long term goals and objectives? And that will be, those are the organizations that those will ultimately be the winners.
I don't know. I've been in this industry for 30 years. So I think I've been really patient in trying to get data in the hands of business people at the point of impact. So we'll see. Now, you had trust as your fourth mindset shift. Shouldn't that be the first? Because if you don't trust AI, nothing scales without it. People will not use it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, trust is absolutely a first order uh, feature or a metric you should think about from a ground up when you're building any EI system instead of thinking as a bolt on. That's definitely the fourth piece I talk about, but it's something that we have to embed in the organization, in the feature, in the implementation from the day one.
So, part of this is what led you to create and found the AI Trust Lab at USC. Tell our listeners what this lab really is focused on. What are you doing here?
The aspect of building trust frameworks through which we can bring AI adoption to the next level. So think of it this way: today, the AI models and agents, they are mostly measured on performance. Everyone is measuring them on performance. But but when you, for example, when you give credit to someone, you look at their FICO scores. There's no FICO scores for models. So I decided to create one. And I built this lab, which is an interdisciplinary lab, bringing the computer scientists, the researchers, the applied AI researchers, the humanities part, the policy, and the communication people together to think of what is trust, define it, and ultimately measure and evaluate it, so that there's a FICO score for models as well, so that we can score the model on whether the model is trustworthy or not. And we can dive deep on the areas where it is missing, so that we can have plans around it. How to fix the pieces that are not working for them. And because every organization is different, every organization needs are different, every model is different. So that's what this lab is about, to under so that we can measure and evaluate trust in models and agents.
So, is your vision, just as now there are scores um, often coming from, well, there's different organizations, but like Stanford has the how well did this model perform on math, on reasoning, and bias and safety benchmarks. So, is your vision that the trust score will become another score against which all models are compared?
Absolutely. That's absolutely the goal of the lab, to bring a holistic trust framework to bear, which is not only grounded in the computer science side, but is also grounded in the human aspects of trust in a holistic way, so that we can evaluate the trust in models and agents. And then you can dive deep on individual aspects as well, so that we can benchmark the models. And that's what we do today. We benchmark major foundation models in the lab to evaluate them on trust and safety. And our next up version that we are working on is the agents.
That's wonderful. So, give us a timeline. When can we expect to see some of these trust scores in the public domain?
So we actually have a collaboration with the Silicon Valley startup we are working with. And we recently jointly published a white paper that talks about how in a lot of these models we saw performance going up and trust going down. That was our first version of the joint work together. In the next iteration, we are working on, we have put together final framework, we are evaluating them. We are hoping by end of this summer we will be able to publish a major research finding and the platform for the public to see. And then from there on, we'll keep on working on the agentic side.
Fantastic. And we'll link to that initial paper in the show notes. I do think it's noteworthy that you are bringing in the humanities background. Some of the research papers that I've been reading, like when a certain model becomes more sycophantic, so it's just saying what you want to hear rather than what's real. That is more of a humanities or sociology background, I would say, than a computer science background. And yet you need an understanding of both to recognize, diagnose, and troubleshoot that behavior.
Absolutely. Sycophancy is one, manipulation is another, candor is another. So we we are working on multiple other dimensions beyond the computer science aspect. That's why it was fascinating to bring mindsets of very different kind of researchers together when I was building this lab.
And so maybe as you are at the intersection both of tech and business and academia, how are you seeing the new generation of experts coming into the AI industry? Are they paying enough attention to all these disciplines?
I think I see things evolving very rapidly. And there are a lot of researchers from different sides are paying attention. I've seen people from core physics and hard backgrounds, natural sciences background coming in and contributing to this field. I've seen people from law and policy and communication contributing to this field heavily. And especially in the large language model era, the previous version of AI, if that version of AI was very applied AI and computer science focused, this version of AI is definitely an amalgam of different kinds of skill sets because our AI is now talking to you and chatting with you, which is a human part, and we need to bring the humanities in it. Absolutely.
Yeah, good. My next question is, it's sensitive. And I think about the work that you have done across different industries, different roles. You are living your passion. And you wrote about in your Substack the impact of losing your dad during COVID and how it caused you to rethink your work. What would you like to share about this?
So my dad was very well renowned author and a professor in a medical field who actually got awarded as a national as a nationally acclaimed uh, educator. And he always used to say, one day you will teach. And I was always in industry and having a lot of fun building things. And I realized maybe there's a side of me that really enjoys teaching, and I wanted to experiment and try it out. And that's how I got into this teaching side of it after I lost him, and I published a book and as a tribute to him. I really think after he passed away, it gave me a time to reflect a little bit on what I truly wanted to do. And I have realized I really like to be at the intersection of this research and production. Being in academics really fuel my industry ambitions. And that is what I want to keep on doing. And that is how it has really shifted my trajectory of work overall. And overall, I believe it has made me a better leader and a more well rounded leader.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. No doubt he was a great role model for you, and what a beautiful tribute you've given to him, but also to our industry. I do think your Substack is also another great resource for people. But let's shift to a lighthearted round. What do you enjoy doing outside of data and AI?
So, apart from the data and AI side, and if you will count that, although the teaching is around AI, I truly enjoy teaching, and a lot of my students are from highly technical backgrounds, but a lot of them are coming from completely non-technical backgrounds, from brand management, from communications, and seeing them at the end of the class launching AI products in production using these vibe coding tools and showcasing that creativity really lights me up. So that's the one piece I really enjoy, apart from building products and working on this research lab, working in industry and whatnot. I think the second piece on the lighthearted side I really enjoy is I love traveling and exploring different cultures.
Okay, so a recent trip you've made that you would recommend to our listeners.
Recent trip I made to is was to Vietnam, and I highly recommend people to go to Vietnam. Absolutely beautiful cities there, very polite and welcoming people, and a great time. And I love visiting to Southern America and Asian countries apart from Europe, but I really recommend Vietnam.
Okay, good. How about a book or podcast that has significantly influenced your thinking?
One of the books actually that is a classic one I always refer to people is Four Steps to Epiphany by Stephen Blank. That's one of the classic books, especially in the word and the today's word, when you're trying to build products and you're trying to think of building organizations, how to think about it, things in a systematic way, how to think from a customer lens. That's a classic book I recommend to everyone. From the podcast perspective, I really like Reid Hoffman's podcast because it gives a broad perspective overall around the industry, around what is happening in the AI world. I enjoy that. I really recommend.
Yeah, I listened to that as well. All right, you can choose the last one depending on your mood in the moment. Either what are you most grateful for, maybe beyond the obvious of health and family, or something that you've accomplished in the last week that you are particularly proud of.
I think I'll choose the gratefulness part because I think that's the most important part for everyone at every stage. I'm actually grateful for support I have received from the community when I have, for example, written the book, when I have tried to distribute this knowledge, and the reaction and support I've gained from writing the book has been incredible. I'm really, really grateful to both of people who wrote forward from my book for my book. For example, Ted Shelton, who was chief operating officer of Inflection AI, and then he's right now at OpenAI, and Jali, who was co-founder of Google AI R&D team, and she's chief uh, founder of a new company, LiveX AI. I'm grateful for people like those in the communities and the support overall. I'm obviously grateful for a support from my wife because, as you can see, the incredible number of tracks I'm trying to run, the lab, the industry, the writing was one before, and the teaching, and it's relentless, and she's always supporting me, so I'm so grateful for that. And there's there's so much to be grateful for from all of those aspects, from family as well as from friends.
It's a lot. And indeed, we don't do this work alone. So, Shub, we are grateful that you have given us all these assets and the privilege of your time today. Thank you, Shub.
Thank you so much, Cindy. It was a pleasure.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please rate it or like it on your favorite podcast platform. And if you would like more inspiration and thought leadership, follow me on LinkedIn or visit dataandaichief.com.